Marginal note, initiation of amendment procedures. 46. 1. The procedures for amendment under Sections 38, 41, 42, and 43 may be initiated either by the Senate or the House of Commons or by the Legislative Assembly of a province. Marginal note, revocation of authorization. 2. A resolution of assent made for the purposes of this part may be revoked at any time before the issue of a proclamation authorized by it. Marginal note, amendments without Senate resolution. 47. 1. An amendment to the Constitution of Canada made by proclamation under Section 38, 41, 42, or 43 may be made without a resolution of the Senate authorizing the issue of the proclamation, if, within 180 days after the adoption by the House of Commons of a resolution authorizing its issue, the Senate has not adopted such a resolution, and if, at any time, after the expiration of that period, the House of Commons again adopts the resolution. Marginal note, computation of period. 2. Any period when Parliament is prorogued or dissolved shall not be counted in computing the 180-day period referred to in subsection 1. Marginal note, advice to issue proclamation. 48. The Queen's Privy Council for Canada shall advise the Governor-General to issue a proclamation under this part forthwith on the adoption of the resolutions required for an amendment made by proclamation under this part. Marginal note, Constitutional Conference. 49. A constitutional conference composed of the Prime Minister of Canada and the First Ministers of the provinces shall be convened by the Prime Minister of Canada within 15 years after this part comes into force to review the provisions of this part. And note 103, Part 6, Amendment to the Constitution Act, 1867, 50. And note 104, 51. And note 105, Part 7, General, Marginal note, Primacy of Constitution of Canada, 52. 1. The Constitution of Canada is the supreme law of Canada, and any law that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is, to the extent of the inconsistency, of no force or effect. Marginal note, Constitution of Canada. 2. The Constitution of Canada includes a. The Canada Act 1982, including this Act, b. The acts and orders referred to in the schedule, and c. Any amendment to any act or order referred to in paragraph A or B. Marginal note, Amendments to Constitution of Canada. 3. Amendments to the Constitution of Canada shall be made only in accordance with the authority contained in the Constitution of Canada. Marginal note, Repeals and new names. 53. 1. The enactments referred to in column 1 of the schedule are hereby repealed or amended to the extent indicated in column 2 thereof, and, unless repealed, shall continue as law in Canada, under the name set out in column 3 thereof. Marginal note, Consequential amendments. 2. Every enactment, except the Canada Act 1982, that refers to an enactment referred to in the schedule by the name in column 1 thereof is hereby amended by substituting for that name the corresponding name in column 3 thereof, and any British North America Act not referred to in the schedule may be cited as the Constitution Act followed by the year and number, if any, of its enactment. Marginal note, Repeal and Consequential amendments. 54. Part 4 is repealed on the day, that is 1 year, after this part comes into force, and this section may be repealed, and this act renumbered, consequentially upon the repeal of Part 4, and this section, by proclamation issued by the Governor-General, under the Great Seal of Canada, and note 106, 54.1 repealed, and note 107, marginal note, French version of Constitution of Canada, 55. A French version of the portions of the Constitution of Canada referred to in the schedule shall be prepared by the Minister of Justice of Canada as expeditiously as possible and, when any portion thereof sufficient to warrant action being taken has been so prepared, it shall be put forward for enactment by proclamation issued by the Governor-General, under the Great Seal of Canada pursuant to the procedure then applicable to an amendment of the same provisions of the Constitution of Canada, and note 108. Marginal note, English and French versions of certain constitutional texts, 56. Where any portion of the Constitution of Canada has been, or is enacted in English and French, or where a French version of any portion of the Constitution is enacted pursuant to Section 55, the English and French versions of that portion of the Constitution are equally authoritative. Marginal note, English and French versions of this Act, 57. The English and French versions of this Act are equally authoritative. Marginal note, Commencement, 58. Subject to Section 59, this Act shall come into force on a day, to be fixed by proclamation issued by the Queen, or the Governor-General, under the Great Seal of Canada, and Note 109. Marginal Note, commencement of paragraph 23, 1a, in respect of Quebec, 59. 1. Paragraph 23, 1a, shall come into force in respect of Quebec on a day to be fixed by proclamation issued by the Queen, or the Governor-General, under the Great Seal of Canada. Marginal Note, authorization of Quebec. 2. A proclamation under subsection 1 shall be issued only where authorized by the Legislative Assembly or Government of Quebec. And Note 110, marginal note, repeal of this section. 3. This section may be repealed on the day paragraph 23, 1a, comes into force in respect of Quebec, and this Act amended and renumbered, consequentially upon the repeal of this section, by proclamation issued by the Queen, or the Governor-General, under the Great Seal of Canada. Marginal note, short title, and citations. 60. This Act may be cited as the Constitution Act 1982, and the Constitution Acts 1867-1975, Number 2, and this Act may be cited together as the Constitution Acts 1867-1982. Marginal note, references. 61. A reference to the Constitution Acts 1867-1982 shall be deemed to include a reference to the Constitution Amendment Proclamation 1983, and Note 111. Scheduled to the Constitution Act, 1982, Section 53, Modernization of the Constitution. Item, Column 1, Act Affected. Column 2, Amendment. Column 3, New Name. 1. British North America Act, 1867, 30-31 Victoria, C3, UK. 1. Section 1 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 1. This Act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1867. 2. Section 20 is repealed. 3. Class 1 of Section 91 is repealed. 4. Class 1 of Section 92 is repealed. Constitution Act, 1867. 2. An Act to amend and continue the Act 32-33 Victoria Chapter 3, and to establish and provide for the government of the Province of Manitoba, 1870. 33 Victoria, C3, Ken. 1. The long title is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. Manitoba Act, 1870. 2. Section 20 is repealed. Manitoba Act, 1870. 3. Order of Her Majesty and Council admitting Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory into the Union, dated the 23rd day of June, 1870. Rupert's Land and Northwestern Territory Order. 4. Order of Her Majesty and Council admitting British Columbia into the Union, dated the 16th day of May, 1871. British Columbia Terms of Union. 5. British North America Act, 1871, 34-35 Victoria, C28, UK. Section 1 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 1. This Act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1871. Constitution Act, 1871. 6. Order of Her Majesty and Council admitting Prince Edward Island into the Union, dated the 26th day of June, 1873. Prince Edward Island Terms of Union. 7. Parliament of Canada Act, 1875, 38-39 Victoria, C38, UK. Parliament of Canada Act, 1875. 8. Order of Her Majesty and Council admitting all British possessions and territories in North America and islands adjacent thereto into the Union, dated the 31st day of July, 1880. Adjacent Territories Order. 9. British North America Act, 1886, 49-50 Victoria, C35, UK. Section 3 is repealed, and the following substituted therefore. 3. This Act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1886, Constitution Act, 1886, 10. Canada, Ontario Boundary Act, 1889, 52-53 Victoria, C28, UK. Canada, Ontario Boundary Act, 1889, 11. Canadian Speaker, Appointment of Deputy Act, 1895, 2nd Cis, 59 Victoria, C3, UK. The Act is repealed. 12. The Alberta Act, 1905, 4-5 Edward VII, c3, Ken. Alberta Act, 13. The Saskatchewan Act, 1905, 4-5 Edward VII, c42, Ken. Saskatchewan Act, 14. British North America Act, 1907, 7 Edward VII, c11, UK. Section 2 is repealed, and the following substituted therefor. 2. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1907, Constitution Act, 1907, 15. British North America Act, 1915, 5-6 George V, c45, UK. Section 3 is repealed, and the following substituted therefor. 3. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1915, Constitution Act, 1915, 16. British North America Act, 1930, 20-21, George V, c26, UK. Section 3 is repealed, and the following substituted therefor. 3. This act may be cited as the Constitution Act, 1930, Constitution Act, 1930, 17. Statute of Westminster, 1931, 22 George V, c4, UK. Insofar as they apply to Canada, A. Section 4 is repealed, and B. Subsection 7, 1, is repealed. Statute of Westminster, 1931, 18. British North America Act, 1940, 3-4 George VI, c36, UK. Section 2 is repealed, and the following substituted therefor.